So John O'Shea has called time, Kenny, in his international career. That's it. He's done. He's out. He's going to, I think you were saying, have a bit of a send-off for the USA game and these friendlies.
Yeah, so it was mentioned. I think Martin mentioned he will be part of the squad, so he's part of the squad. I imagine he'll play.
Yeah, like expected that it would happen. Like it was, I think, the right thing to do that he stayed on up to this point. To sort of, he didn't always play the most fulsome part of the pitch, but I'm sure he was a pretty good influence about.
Oh, great influence! Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine that was the case, and primarily why Martin would have wanted to keep him down. Sometimes it can be very tricky trying to manage older players when they're not getting their full amount of game time. They're not first picks. That can be difficult for older players to deal with. Some don't take it very well. And in some cases, you're better getting them out, whether it's club or international football. You're better showing them the door because it become a little bit toxic around the dressing room. But clearly, John was never one of those, even from a very young age. I was very impressed with John, not just kind of his technical ability. He was a lovely footballer when he first came in. It was 0-1 when he came in, just the year before the World Cup. But he was quite imposing. Yeah, I get it now, John. We've got to squeeze. John, don't leave me isolated. Won't be one of the pitch. That's probably what I'm asking him. Don't leave me alone. Give me a little bit of cover. John's thinking, oh, here we go. I'm going to be.
There's no way the way they're grinning at you. That's
but his technically was so good, Adrian. Left and right foot. It's a wonderful football. I remember coming on the training pitch, little keep ball sessions we'd normally do. Right. You'd never see me in a keep ball session. I'd just hide for about 20 minutes.
That's Kaka, right?
I wouldn't be interested. Yeah, that's Kevin. No, Kevin Coban. That is. Yeah, Kaka in between us.
You would have been in. We came into the squads around sort of early 2000s, and it was the Greece game in Athens 0-0 that the two of you would have started in. There was yourself, Steve Finn, and Richie Dunn.
Givens, Don took that team.
Was
that was just a transition period. Don just took the team. Yeah, but like I said, it struck me, John,
impressed by him.
Yeah, but just because he was a defender, but he's naturally left or right foot, soft feet. People say soft, quick feet. Those are the key ball sessions, no problem to him. Drop his shoulder, plenty of touches on the ball, and a real kind of calm demeanour about him. A lot of confidence in his own ability, but not one of them would throw it into your face. You could just sense, you could see the quality which he had, and his character as well. Great young fella. He really enjoyed the group. Yeah, very quickly became an integral part of the group. So. Yeah, no surprise to see he hung around for so long, was the influence that he was. Amazing that he came in 0-1. He missed the World Cup in 0-2. Yeah. Probably just came a little bit too quick for him. But, I mean, he had to wait another, 11 years for his appearance at a major championships, and the European Champions won at 12. I mean, that didn't go too well collectively for the group under Trapattoni. But thankfully, 4 years later, he was a part of the squad under Martin. So, yeah. I'm delighted for him. I don't think it's one of these. I think you can get too morose about thinking, oh, so sad. For me, it's a time for celebration. You know, he's 117 caps, such an influential player within the squad. Great character, someone who we should be proud of, both on the human level and from a professional point of view. So, yeah, I hope the game against the USA, if he gets some minutes on the pitch, it's a time for celebration. I hope him and his family enjoy the day. He 2002 obviously missed out on and sort of started coming into squads and teams in a much more fulsome way after that. As I mentioned, that was the two of you would have. I was looking at it yesterday. It was over 20 games that the two of you would have started together. I think up to 2005, the Switzerland game where you. I couldn't get enough of younger legs around me.
Well, Richard Dunn, Andy O'Brien, Steve Finn, and Steve
that's what I'm saying. I was lucky.
But the two of you were pretty much mainstays of that team. You were the two that were sort of for injury reasons, I suppose, maybe to others and form and stuff, but you were pretty much the mainstays.
But we were lucky in that right back. We'd some world class people. I don't think people talk about it enough in terms of right backs. When I first came into the squad, Gary Kelly was there, absolutely world class in terms of full back. Steve Finn and Stephen Carr was playing at level for a couple of years. I don't think there was any better in the world. Would have gone to any international team, any club team. Jeff Kenna in any other area probably would have got himself at least another 30, 40 caps. And then John arrived on the back end of that, but he was so versatile, John. Only play left back, right back, centre half, even centre midfield on occasion. He played for Manchester. It's just such a natural.
Yeah, like I was making this point yesterday with Keith, that does he get underrated because of that? Because he's viewed as a utility player, which is kind of like a black mark against some players, when in actual fact it's an incredibly difficult thing to do.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not underrated by his peers, the people who played with him, the managers he played under, and the reasons that I've said in terms of his technical qualities, and very bright as well, a good reader of the game as well, John, and just in terms of his medals total as well. I mean, he must be one of the most successful Irish players of all time. He's got a huge amount to be proud of. I know he mentioned there, you're always looking, to go out, say, with a bit of a bang in terms of his appearance at the World Cup this summer. That hasn't happened. A big turnaround in terms of the next qualifying campaign. So as soon as we didn't make it against Denmark, I think it was pretty obvious John was going to choose his moment.
Just before we leave that aspect, was he the sort of guy that would have required a lot of guidance? Like, you've mentioned his confidence. I don't know if talking to Stephen Hunt about him before.
He needed a bit of guidance to get down to rights and in Swords. Like he wouldn't have known the little venues maybe where he would have hung out. I'm just knowing I'm talking about. He's giving a very stern face. No, he wouldn't.
Because he was like, this guy was a superstar as a kid. Like, this was a guy who all the clubs in the UK were chasing down.
No, not at all. No, he wouldn't have. From a footballing point, I think you young player, you're always learning the game. You develop. There's more you have to learn about the game, and would have been one of the more experienced players. I wouldn't say like I gave John a leg up or anything, or played a part in his development. I wouldn't say that at all. But as a young player, but John was very open. He would listen, but those natural qualities which I spoke about, pretty much blew you away. Straight away, and it was no surprise really became such an integral part of the squad in terms of his character, a big leader within the squad, and he became that figure very quickly within the squad. I stepped away in 05, 06, and you could see even from the outside looking in, you could see John become that kind of leadership figure within the squad, very much respected by the rest of the squad for those kind of leadership attributes as well as his obvious footballing qualities.
05.
Yeah, good day for Irish football, when I stepped away. But I'd like to hopefully be involved going forward. It's a difficult moment. I would not say a difficult moment when you step away. We've all been there. Ooh, where do I go now? What's happening here? But John can really, his many strings was bow.
Will he go into coaching? I mean, there's been some conversation that Sunderland job might be something he'd be almost interested in. From everything you're saying, it does sound like he's...
Yeah, I think so. But I think there's many of those players I've played with who have that capability and who haven't, for one reason or another. Maybe they haven't had the opportunities. Maybe they've decided to go down a different path. And that's a little bit sad, to be honest with you, because integrating a number of these players back into the set, even from an international point of view, you're talking about club football there, Adrian.
Yes.
But I'm talking about our international setup. Almost earmarking these players, and there's plenty of them around there. None of them have been on their coaching badges the last couple of years, and integrating these players. Actually, forget about saying, it's great to see him getting a club in England. What about, hold on, let's get him over here. Let's get him integrating here, our younger age groups, even around the scene, under 21 senior into international squad. Don't necessarily have to be our next manager, but very talented coaches, good eye for the game. The type of people who you really want around the setup, that younger players, even the senior international players would benefit from kind of having around. And John may well be one of those players.
Because that's the thing that will always be said about, like, say, the Ireland squad that we're going to bring up in a moment. You start to think to yourself, when will there be another Premier League winner in an Ireland squad? It could be 10 years before we have another Premier League winner wearing an Ireland jersey. But what people forget is just because we don't have any of them playing for Ireland anymore, we still have their potential expertise in the pool that is Ireland, it is absolutely vital that expertise stays within the Ireland camp. Otherwise, the standards will start to slip. Right.
And you never hear that talk. We hear talk, what players can we get for the internationals? There's a lad out there, he can play for Orange, a young lad, let's go and get him. And we're always, clambering over, said, where's the next centre forward we need? It is. But there's never that talk and say, well, where's the next body of coaches that are going to come in? There was a chance Martin could have left a couple of months ago. Some talk for maybe taking an opportunity back in England. And if he'd have gone, he would have taken his whole coaching support team with him. What would have happened then? There would have been a massive void there. Where would have been the conveyor belt, a young potential coach, a potential next door manager working a little bit further down or around the senior international group who would just naturally step in? You know what I mean? There wouldn't be that vast, big jolt in terms of the manager taking his whole management staff away with him. Where those players around the senior international team, the likes of your John O'Shea's, whoever they are, Damien Duffs, Richard Dunn's, whoever they may be, who are just ready to step in. It's almost a natural conveyor, but natural progression for people to step in, pick up the slack and move forward. I don't quite see that at the moment. It's talked about in some quarters. I don't see an awful lot of it spoken about. But that real understanding of, we need to get players, we need to strengthen the team, but what about the coaching network around that? Alan's spoken about in terms of some of the Irish rugby players getting to the age of stepping in a coaching capacity. Rowan.
You mean more around the international team, do you? Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Around this senior international team. I mean, there's lads doing some great jobs over in England. Mark Hendy in the academy at Manchester City. Stephen Reid and Dean Coyley. Yeah, Lee Carsey. There's a number around. Curtis Fleming's back at Middlesbrough. They're getting great experience over the past couple of years. So that's all great. But for some players, the commitment to club football isn't great in terms of your time, family. It doesn't quite work. You know, what about a number of these players actually, you know, getting hold of them, bring them across and integrating them into the setup over here? Now, that's an easy thing to say. And there has been a little bit. I've dipped my toe in the under-19s. Keith Andrews, one or two others, Duffers on occasion. But a real commitment to bringing these players in. You know, you got to pay them accordingly as well. But I think the money's there. And when you look at the money in terms of around the senior international team, in terms of what's been paid there, for me, there's an argument there for bringing in a body of players over the next couple of years. John's one of them, and integrating them into the setup over here. So when Martin does decide to step away, whether that's 2 or 4 years' time, we've got some potential replacements.
Well, even from an assistant coach point of view, that you don't always have to move to that level. Just that there is some sort of a sign of progression, I guess.
Well, exactly.
And that's it's always going to be a limited pool. I mean, there's always going to be more people who obviously take the other route to try and, you know, get into coaching. You mentioned some of the names there, and Stephen Reid is another one who's obviously trying to cut their teeth at a level in England and sort of see where it takes them. I'm assuming that's probably where he's at in his career, and maybe where Stephen's at, and these kind of guys, that it's probably more about trying to get a club gig that's at some
but these
sort
have been coaching for a lot of years, these players, and it's not about necessarily the next door manager. Some players are coached, they're happy to be coached and not looking for that big step up, and it may well be the case. We need to find the next manager. We may have to cast you know, look a little bit further afield, but at least we'll have players in positions underneath them, in coaching positions, can work around these people. So you have a measure of solidity there, like of continuance in terms of players around the squad. And one of these players might surprise you, may actually be capable of stepping up and taking on the manager's job. You know, Roy's an obvious one. I won't labour the point. I know that probably wasn't the plan in terms of Martin and his succession, Roy coming in, but Martin steps away. There's an obvious succession there in terms of Roy stepping in there. Now that probably wasn't the plan. But then what about below Roy? Who's coming through then? Who are the next potential players who have the required skills get to step up, and maybe Roy steps aside? Maybe that's a natural conversation there. Probably hasn't been had, may well never be had, like, you know. But it's a shame really, because I think we have some real talent on the coaching side as well as the playing side, and we're just not quite tapping into it at the moment.
Yeah, we're going to get to the squad in just a second. Jason on Twitter saying that about John O'Shea, that he's not underappreciated by regular match-going fans for sure. Maybe the bandwagon crowd, says Jason there, having a bit of a dig. We've had a few contacts in, Kenny, as well, just on our previous conversation about VAR. Some of them wondering specifically around the Thierry Henry handball incident is obviously the one that frequently comes to mind about...
He's already mentioned that he doesn't care about it, Thierry Henry.
No, I suffer. That's my point. I will suck it all up. I've been suffering a few of myself over the years, and it's an easy one, and I understand that. Say we had a scene.
It's a black and white example.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, what it is, absolutely. There's plenty of them out there, but it's the bigger picture for me. It's not. I'm not feeling it. I'm really not, and I will suffer that in terms of those human errors that referees make on a football pitch. I don't remember playing football in the kind of 80s and the 90s, even professionally, when I went over to the advent of the Premier League and all that. These mistakes were still being made on a week-to-week basis. I don't remember this absolute uproar. The game's a shambles. How can we allow this to happen? Human error is costing us goal. People accepted it. They suck it up. It's part of the game.
The fact that you're even referring to them as mistakes, though, surely there's an opportunity to eradicate them. We should just take
But it's not as simple as that, Adrian. I know you keep going back to people's default argument, but it's not the strongest, because you will get decisions better. There's no doubt about that. But it's the ripple effect of that in terms of how it's going to affect the game. And I think the game will fundamentally change, and it'll lean more towards an NFL style approach to the game in terms of dissecting every single decision that happens on a football pitch.
And a lot of those decisions are dissected actually as the game goes on. So frequently when VAR is functioning properly, it doesn't actually even impact. A lot of the time people don't even know what's happening.
No. In some cases that will be the case, but there's so many contentious episodes during the course of the game. Almost every 15, 20, 30 seconds, people have an argument. So that was a throw, and that must have been a free kick. Did you see that short pull? Was that offside? I don't know. Advantage to the attacker? Oh, I'm not too sure. Was he interfering with play? Yes, he was. No, he wasn't. Of course, he was. No, he wasn't.
It's only in relation to the scoring of the act of scoring a goal.
At the moment. Well, at the moment,
you're worried about the slippery. So if they said to you, we're going to bring this in, we're going to ring fence the... I'm trying to get to your tipping point here, right? We're going to ring fence the... It's only
point.
It's only ever going to be in relation to goals.
We've had the tipping point. Yeah,
what do you think about goal line technology?
Yeah, that's it. That's the tipping point for me. Goal line technology. That's it.
Can I just say on your NFL reference there, I just think that's an irrelevant point to make because of the nature of the sport. It's stop-start anyway. You've got to change your entire team while this decision is being made or potentially not. Like, that's the nature of the sport. I think football is unique. I think it's fundamentally different, and to compare to NFL and...
But I'm saying that's where it potentially could head. I'm not saying that's where it is.
NFL isn't stop-start because of the officiating. To say that it will go the way of NFL and to say NFL is stop-start because of the officiating is just patently untrue.
Well, I'm talking about, I don't want to see the game lengthened, fragmented, broken up. It's a fast-flowing game, the game of football. That's the big attraction for people. That's where the exhilaration comes. We talk about a high-energy game, up-tempos, energise the crowds, the atmosphere. This is what's driving it. The very nature of the game, the free-flowing nature of the game, back to front, counter-attacking, that type of thing. High-energy, high-intensity type of game. You start getting away from that. Well, for me, patently, you can't. I've seen it already. This year round. It's just the game's been killed. It's been absolutely killed. I'm looking at the telly, watching the game, thinking, I'll go make a cup of tea. And probably half the people in the stadium are thinking that. No, it's in the early stages. Oh, yeah, we can iron these things out. I don't see it. I really don't go down the right. And I'm seeing officials' behaviours change now. If I'm a linesman on the side now, seeing somebody in an offside position, I'm thinking, I'm sure he's offside. I'm going to put me up. I'll tell you what, no, I'm not. I'm going to keep me flag down, even though I think it's offside, because...
Then wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. Let the VAR...
Then doesn't that actually lend itself to a more flowing game? So he's actually saying, well, I'm not sure, but it might be, but I'll keep my flag down, let the game flow, and then we can review afterwards. That's actually more... That endorses your point about it being a more continuously flowing game.
No, not for me. So what happens? He doesn't put his flag if the game goes on. The man doesn't score. Yeah, so the game is continuing now. That should have been enough. So the game should have stopped.
But to your point, it's flowing. It's on we go.
Not in those circumstances when it's flowing. But that's all wrong. There should have been.
He's made a wrong decision.
There should have been an offside there. But because of the VAR aspect, and he's thinking, I don't want to humiliate myself here. I don't want to be exposed to getting this decision wrong. I'm going to keep my flag down. In fact, as often as I can, I'm not even going to officiate. I'm going to just run up and down the side.
Oh, that'll be great.
Line.
The game will be perfectly flowing all the time.
Yeah, but even wrong decisions that are being made, we're just going to accept it. But that's ridiculous. That's gone almost to farcical proportions. Like, linesmen have got to realise they've got to be backed. And when they make a decision right or wrong, it's respected. Yeah, we all have our moan up, but we'll get on. We'll suck it up and we'll get on.
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree in this one.
No. Come back in a year's time. Let's have a conversation after the World Cup. Let's see how it goes then.
The Ireland squad is the other thing we want to talk to you about. Martin O'Neill has named a squad for the upcoming friendlies. 40, I think. Number? Am I right? 40? Sort of, yeah. The main sort of talking points here are in relation to the 7 forwards that have been named. So Walters and Long are the obviously experienced heads here. Maguire, Hogan are the next tier, and then the new players: Aidan O'Brien from Millwall, Callum Robinson from Preston, and Graham Burke from Shamrock Rovers. Martin O'Neill was pretty honest, I suppose, yesterday on the state of his forwards, the dynamic of them, and what he has to deal with for the upcoming campaigns. Are we, to a degree, without being overly fatalistic about it, are we doomed here before we even begin?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, a little bit too negative for me. As if, like, look, yeah, everyone is looking for that kind of natural goal scorer, that kind of fox in the box or wherever can kind of guarantee you a certain amount of goals. But goals can come from any area of the pitch, predominantly when you set up a team. And Martin's kind of jumped a little bit in terms of formation during his time. But just your basic formation, which you see now played out week to week, that kind of say 4-3-3, a number 9. 2 wide men in midfield, 3. It served Manchester City so well. Liverpool went out the best, the most dynamic, absolutely exhilarating. But the game nowadays, the modern game, it's about goals being shared around the pitch. It's all about that front 3. the argument of your number 9 hitting 30 goals or your 2 centre forwards need to get 40 goals between them. Your winger will chip in with a couple, maybe a goal scoring centre midfield. That's by and by now. You're looking at goals from all over that front line. That front three now have to contribute, and the very best sides now, those wide players playing off the left and right, are contributing 15, 20 goals. And Salah's probably the very best, probably the exceptional. But most players in those positions now are expected to get 10, 15 goals. Centre midfield players, particularly those advanced 2 number 8s who have a licence to get forward. And I think we've got a couple of those players, the likes of Jeff Hendrick, Conor Hourihane at Aston Villa, scored a lot of goals this season. So when I think about where our goals are going to come from, I'm not looking at that number 9 position with my blinkers on, thinking, have we got a natural goal scorer? Or no, there's no goals.
We've been doing that though, haven't we?
James McLean playing off the left-hand side, top goal scorer in the last qualifying campaign. So for me, it's not about we haven't got a Robbie Keane. No, we haven't got Robbie Keane. No, we didn't before he came. We never will have another Robbie Keane. Does that mean we're not capable of qualifying for major championships? No. I'll tell you what, if we keep enough clean sheets during the course of the next qualifying campaign, we'll qualify. So let's concentrate as much on that. I think potentially we have goals. Look at that squad, and it's a huge squad, I know. But the likes of Sean, wouldn't give up on Sean Maguire. Graham Burke, of course,
Seems to be a very technically gifted player, and has had a bit of a go in the UK. It didn't quite work out for him.
I'm interested. I'm going to try the next couple of weeks. I'm going to try and take in the game with the Rovers game. A couple of players that I'd like to have a look at up close. Seen little bits of them on
Scored a belter
TV.
In front of O'Neill and Keane on his weaker foot last week, which I'm sure has done no harm in getting involved in that. Potentially a player that maybe given a shake.
Well, if you think he's good enough, the lads, Roy Martin thinks he's got the attributes. This is the ideal time to bring him in. Even these League of Nations games coming up, for me, that's still an opportunity to bring these players and have a look at them in a good competitive environment. I've heard some people argue, well, it's only the France and USA games, the only chance we'll have to look at players. And then it's like, worse, the business starts in September. Well, not so much for me. If there's players that were real quality and you really feel as if, hold on, these players are capable, they just need a little bit more experience in a real competitive environment. This League of Nations for me it's a halfway house for me in terms. There's not automatic qualification for the next major champions, but it's good competitive football. There's actually something at stake for the reasons you'll probably know better than me. So if the likes of Graham Burke show up well and 1 or 2 others like Sean Maguire, the couple of boys from Blackburn, whoever else over the next 2 games, France and USA, for me, keep them involved. It's not a case of, all right, take a step to the side for the next 2 years after the next qualifying campaign is over. Actually integrate them during the course of this League of Nations. And even over that period of time, by the time the qualifiers arrive next March, 1 or 2 of those players may be capable of stepping in.
So in yesterday's squad, there are 10 players there who played Premier League football this season. I think only 3 of them have played over 20.
Look, I'm not going to jump, but don't get wound up. Don't get set up on, we've only got so many players playing at a certain level. We haven't players playing at the elite clubs. We've only got so many players playing a Premiership level.
But it is a gauge though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a small factor, but it's only a small factor. Look at the individual attributes of those players first and foremost, regardless of where they're playing. And that's an exciting squad to me. Like I said, it's a huge squad. There's a lot of players in there. But some of the young talent in that squad as well. Could have Matt Doherty, who's had an outstanding season at Wolves. Even Greg Cunningham for me a couple of years ago looked as if he was the answer at left back. Had a couple of horrendous injuries. He's got his career back on track at Preston. Declan Rice as well for me. In terms of the shape of the team, the likes of Declan coming in, Martin had a look at the back three. Potentially could that be a way forward for us in terms of putting a system in place which best complements the players. A lot of talk about the system we set up against Denmark in the game at the Aviva, that kind of diamond shape in midfield, which really we got exposed. That was probably one of the reasons why we got beaten so heavily. So is there another system of play going forward which best complements these players? Kevin Long coming into the squad as well. Those attacking midfielders. Have we got goal scorer midfielders and centre midfield? Yeah. So could we accommodate maybe a front three, maybe a lone central striker? What's the best way to go for us going forward? Hopefully Martin will find the answer to those questions going forward the next couple of months.
And I know we need to get to a clip. Just to finish off my point there, what I was going to say was that we've got this amount of players who've proven themselves at the top tier to a certain extent. Most of them have proven themselves at that level. So what my point is that we're not quite sure how good some of these players can be. Of course, they can reach the top of the game, potentially, a couple of them. So what I was going to say is that when it comes to the next qualification campaign, I'm not fully sure if we're going to be guaranteed a playoff spot in our qualification campaign, and therefore I am sure we need to be taking the League of Nations quite seriously at the end of this calendar year.
Yeah, of course we take it seriously. I'm not talking about like throwing somebody and actually expose himself to humiliation. The player clearly needs to have the right kind of skill set, the mentality to actually go and step in. But there's always an element of risk when you throw a young player in, no matter who they are, in terms of how they cope with the situation, the pressure on their shoulders. But you're only going to find out one way. And by and large, to me, those younger players, you throw them in, you get a bit of an inkling, you put them up close in the training camp, you've seen them play at their club level, so you will have formed an opinion about them already. Maybe individually you would have met them as well, so you get a bit of an inkling in terms of their kind of personality, character strengths. But eventually you're going to make the decision. I'm going to put him in. I'm going to back him, even in a pressurised environment of the League of Nations. I know there's something at stake, but this is all about player development. This is what we have to do. We have to develop our next core group of players. So we're going to have to take these small elements of risk.
One of those players who was developed obviously over the last campaign was Shane Duffy. He was on the Keith Andrews show yesterday talking about his role in the Irish setup.
With my performances, I feel like I've done steady. Obviously I've had a few lows with Ireland, with the sending off in the France game, and then I've had a bad moment in Moldova away where it's a different feeling because you have your whole country sort of on your back if you make a mistake, or you're so like.
Do you feel that different pressure when you play
France?
Yeah, of
course. 100%. I felt it after France. Obviously, sort of came in against Italy. No one knew me, and the France game's such a big game for them. And then I felt so low after. I felt like, he probably doesn't trust me no more. And then I just sort of went back there where I was good at, and I've been lucky because I know the manager. I know what he likes, and it's sort of my game, and it helps me a lot. But as you say, going in, like I always feel like I go in like it's my first squad. I feel like I go in and have to impress him, and I know you sort of have this feeling where he likes some he always plays, but I always feel like it always rubs off me with Seamus, where Seamus always is on people, and I always feel like you always say you play, but you don't know, and I always go in like thinking I hope I get another cap this trip, and that's my outlet, and I think I can never change because I get too far ahead of myself, and I think and then my performances might drop, and at that level it'll punish you, and you see the likes of like John and Robbie and the ones who have over 100 caps. You've got to stay at that level and be at that level if you want to get so far, and that's my outlook every time I go away. Hopefully every squad I hope I'm in the squad.
Yeah, that is Shane Duffy. Does seem to have a long-term part in Martin O'Neill's plans. He was part of the Keith Andrews show yesterday. It's all up on YouTube. Stephen Reid was there as well. It's great stuff with both of those. It's live every Thursday from 12:30. A couple of talking points to bring your way, Kenny, before we wrap up on the football for the minute. Wayne Rooney to the MLS seems to be a bit of a thing. A lot of the newspapers that Owen was bringing us a bit earlier on today suggesting that he's going to essentially sit it out with Big Sam and see who's going to crap themselves first and get out of Dodge.
How did they decide that? I mean, is it a game of tiddlywinks?
I think it's a game of Big Sam is probably going to get the boot
it's
anyway.
Amazing.
And so one of the hierarchy at Everton sort of sidles up and says, "Listen, Wayne, don't be too quick to get yourself out of here."
But this was pretty obvious. Really. When I first heard he's been linked to a club in the US, obviously his relationship with Allardyce has deteriorated to an extent. I have a bit of sympathy for Allardyce. To be fair, I don't think Rooney his performance has merited automatic selection, and this kind of perception that I'm a central midfield player now. You have to integrate me to the team as I'm going to play a deeper role. My passing range is. I've never quite bought into Rooney as a natural central midfield player because he hasn't got too many defensive attributes in that area that it pitched for me. So, yes, I have a bit of sympathy for Allardyce in terms of how he's dealt with Rooney. A bit of respect for him. I think he's been quite strong in terms of, look, you haven't been performing at a level, you're out. The team, he hasn't been pussyfooting around them, and I can understand Rooney and being not too happy with this. He thought he was going to be this kind of godlike figure coming back to Everton, but you are right, it looks as if Wayne Rooney has basically just said to the Everton board, looks, the contract there for me, I can jump. But
he's only 32, by the way.
Yeah, he's only 32.
Robbie Keane was 34 when he went to
but
Galaxy.
In effect, he's about 43 in football in terms of Rooney, in terms of his physical capabilities, his football and quality, his technical abilities.
The amount of role he's put behind him as well, in fairness, 17 years old.
Oh yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. But in terms of what's going to happen there, it's amazing. If he was to jump and suddenly Allardyce was to get sacked the week after, the next match was to come in and say, "What absolute shame Wayne Rooney went to Washington. I would have built this kind of team around them." So I can understand. I would imagine Rooney's first impulse is to stay. He made a big commitment to Everton there, boyhood club. So I would think he wants to stay. Clearly not under Allardyce's tutelage. So it's a decision for the board, really. They're in the sticky position for me, because it looks as if they've got to make that decision and make it quick, and it's how much they value Wayne Rooney, what they've seen of Wayne Rooney up close this season in terms of influence on the pitch and in the dressing room. Surely that's going to make their mind up in terms of whether potentially Allardyce stays or goes. For them, it'd be easy to back off, keep Allardyce in the job, almost let Rooney make the decision for them. They wouldn't get a lot of flack because of that, would they? If Rooney made the decision to jump, they could go and get the manager in maybe another 2 or 3 weeks time and say, oh, well, Wayne took it over hands, he would have loved for him to stay. So a lot of politics come into this when you have a player with such a big persona, a personality like Wayne Rooney. But Allardyce would be chuckling to himself. I think he's a winner either way, Allardyce, to be fair to you, whether he comes or goes.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to leave the football there for the minute. We've some good GA stuff to come your way in the next few minutes. Do keep your questions and comments coming in to Kenny. There's been everything, Kenny, from the Kenny got out of the wrong side of bed this morning. Kenny is a bit of a, forget about decaf coffee, give him a full strength, to Kenny's a bit of a legend, and people really enjoying what you have to say.
I don't know why would they think that?
Full gamut.
Like what are the legend attributes?
Adrian's pushing this. I fell out of bed at the wrong side of the bed this morning. I'm not happy with that.
I'm just relaying what people are.
Very much a personal
getting into.
Personal opinion, personal view. He's pushing
Kenny Cunningham, future Irish manager, says Andy Dunleavy there on the old Facebook machine. Kenny in great form, legend. Hashtag OTBAM, says Simon John Whelan.
Well, if Simon John says it must be true, so congratulations.
That'd be, what's our population at the moment? What's the population?
5-ish, is it?
5 million. That's 2. Well, there's reason.
Sounds like Kenny wants to coach within the international setup, says Wes Kenny there.
No, I've been there. Well, thankfully I've been there. I've had a taste with our under-19s last year. It was great. I did enjoy it. It was wonderful. That's what I'm saying. There's some great talent there, and I until you're exposed to it, you see it. Hear a lot of people say, where's the next young players? Even some analysts, where's the next young player? We haven't got the young player, not playing at the highest level. Tell you, get down and watch the under 19s, 17s, 19s, 21s play. You'll see the talent pool there. It's not a given these players are going to step up. Still a big jump involved there, for a lot of different reasons in terms of whether they're going to take the step up at club and international level. But the talent at that level is absolutely frightening. It absolutely bowled me away when I was around it.
Well, they're obviously holding their own, which is always encouraging. I mean, once you start to think that Ireland at a senior level are starting to negotiate the steps down the stairs towards more mediocrity, you start to get a little bit worried. But there is a bit of hope in these young Ireland teams, and some of the performances, individual performances for sure.
Yeah. It's just a pathway, getting a pathway for these players to get the type of experience necessary and just game time under the belt at the required level that they need to develop and progress. That's just a natural thing. That's always been the case. It was there for me as a young, so not quite so easy for the young players. But just get out. If you get an opportunity to get around them, we're around the country when our underage teams are playing. Get out, bring the kids and have a look. Have a look at the quality of footballers that we have at that level. I can promise you it'll blow you away.